Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I welcome you to another episode of our series, Safara Al Keram, where we strive to be in the company of the holy angels by perfecting our recitation of the Quran. I am your host, Abu Ammar, Yasir Qadhi. In verse 7 of Surah Al Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the Quran has been revealed in two separate types of verses. Allah says, هُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ مِنْهُ آيَاتٌ مُحْكَمَاتٌ هُنَّ أُمُّ الْكِتَابِ. He is the one that has revealed this book. Of it are verses which form the gist of this book. They are the muhkam verses. They are the clear, unambiguous verses. وَأُخَرُ مُتَشَابِهَاتٌ. Other verses are more ambiguous, if you like. Other verses can be misinterpreted. So Allah then says, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ. Those that have a disease in their hearts, يَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ. They follow the ambiguous verses in order to cause fitna, in order to cause problems, in order to cause misunderstandings in the community. So the point is that we must be very careful that someone comes along and he misquotes a verse of the Quran to prove his point that he wishes to prove. Rather, the true Muslim, the true scholar of tafsir, the true person who wishes to take guidance from the Quran, he must compile all the verses pertinent to a topic before deriving a ruling. Because it is possible that a person can misquote an ambiguous verse. He can distort the meaning of an ambiguous verse to prove what he wants to prove. And in the process, he leaves many, many other verses which are clear, which are crisp, which are unambiguous in their meaning. They cannot be distorted. For example, some people have tried to prove that Isa alayhi salam has died, was crucified on the cross. And they quote the verse in the Quran, وَسَلَامٌ عَلَيَّ يَوْمَ وُلِدْتُ وَيَوْمَ أَمُوتُ وَيَوْمَ بَعْثُ حَيَّ, where Isa or Jesus is supposed to have said, peace be on me, the day that I was born, and the day that I die, and the day that I shall be resurrected. This is an ambiguous verse in that someone might understand that Isa alayhi salam is dead. But we don't believe so. We believe that he is still alive, and that he will come back and then die a natural death. How do we know this? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions in the Quran, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ. They did not kill Jesus, nor did they crucify him, وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. Rather, the image of a crucifixion was given to them. So this is an example of an ambiguous verse being understood in context of a clear and unambiguous verse. So we have a verse which you might misinterpret to mean something, but when you compile all the verses in the Quran, then you realize what the correct meaning is. Therefore, just because someone quotes you a verse, don't stop there. Go back to the scholars of tafsir. Go back to the books that explain the Quran and see what is the proper understanding of this verse, because Allah Himself has mentioned that there will be a category of people who will try to misinterpret those verses which are of the mutashabih, of ambiguous meaning. Getting back to our topic of tajweed, we have been discussing for a number of lessons the various rules of mad, of elongation of the vowel letters. And in today's lesson, we will continue along that line. This is our fifth topic of mad, and we will talk about mad as-sila. Mad as-sila is a connecting mad, if you like. Therefore, I have a picture here of a connecting hand, if you like, to give you the idea, to give you the image of what it is. Mad as-sila, or the connecting mad, when does it occur, or what does it refer to? It refers to the masculine pronoun of the third person. For example, kitabuhu, his book. This is hu over here, is the masculine pronoun of the third person. Yaduhu, his hand. Okay, so this ha over here, this is what this mad deals with. This ha, yaduhu, kitabuhu, kalbuhu, anything to do with him, the third person in a masculine pronoun. This type of sound is very similar, obviously, to the wow preceded by a dhamma vowel. Kitabuhu, yaduhu. Therefore, because of this, the scholars have included this in the rules of mad. It is very similar to the wow, the letter wow mad before a dhamma. Therefore, the scholars have included it in the rules of the mad, and the rules of the mad apply to it as well. There are three circumstances or rulings of the mad as-sila depending on the context. Once again, all of tajweed is just context. You look at the letter, you look at what's before it, you look at what's after it, and you judge accordingly. Nothing complicated. It's just a matter of memorizing the rules. It's not that advanced. It's just understanding and memorizing the rules. So, the first scenario of the three, if either letter, before or after this pronoun is silent, there will be no mad at all. No mad at all. You do not prolong it. If either letter, if the letter before or the letter after, or even both are silent, then there is no mad. An example, or a number of examples, عَلَيْهُ اللَّهَ. عَلَيْهُ. Again, you find the ha preceded by a ya which has a sukoon on it. Therefore, there will be no mad. You don't say عَلَيْهُ اللَّهَ. No, you don't. Likewise, there is over here جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى. You have the جَاءَهُ. So the hamza has a fatha on it. But over here, the lam has a sukoon. So, once again, you do not prolong it. جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى. You don't say جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى. Over here, إِلَيْهِ يُرْجِعُ. Once again, you have the ha preceded by a sukoon, so there will be no mad whatsoever. So if there is a silent letter before or after, or both before and after, the pronoun, the ha, over here the ha, over here the ha, over here the ha, then there will be no mad whatsoever. If the letter before it is not silent, and after it is a hamza, then you prolong. Once again, you have a choice, 2, 4, or 5 harakas. But always, whenever you have a choice, what did we always say? Consistency. Anytime you have a choice in tajweed, your choice is only for the first time. Once you choose, you should be consistent in that particular ruling. An example is مَا لَهُ أَخْلَدَ. Here we have the ha, preceded by a fatha, and after it is a hamza. And this is exactly the rule that we have just discussed. Here we have the option 2, 4, or 5. Let me do it 2. مَا لَهُ أَخْلَدَ. This is 2. Let me do it 4. مَا لَهُ أَخْلَدَ. Now let me do it 5. مَا لَهُ أَخْلَدَ. So we have an option of 2, 4, or 5. Why? Because before it is any type of harakah, not just any fatha. It can be any movement, a fatha, kasra, or dhamma. And after it is a hamza, we have the option of 2, 4, or 5. Everything else, basically, if there's any other letter besides the hamza, okay, anything besides the hamza, then you only have the option of 2 harakas. You must prolong it only to 2, not more, not less. So it is the hamza, basically, that gives the mad the strength to move up to 4 or 5. If that hamza is not there, you must bring it down to 2. An example is لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. Notice I didn't say لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. There is a mad. Had I said it without the mad, that's how it would sound. But there is a mad, therefore I added the لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى. We have a haraka of length of 2, and this is because before the ha there is a movement, there is a fatha, and after it there is also a dhamma, but there is no, there's a fatha, but there is no hamza. So I have to have a haraka of 2. Okay, let us now recite all of us together Surah Al-Abasa. Surah Al-Abasa, as we know, is the 3rd surah in Juz Amma, the last juz. It is the 80th surah of the Quran. Surah Al-Abasa. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
عبس وتولى.
عبس وتولى.
أن جاءه الأعمى.
أن جاءه الأعمى.
Okay, notice here now, أن جاءه الأعمى. We have this ha, we have this pronoun that we're looking for. Before it, is there a movement? Is there a haraka?
Yes.
Yes. After it,
Sukoon.
silent letter. Therefore, the ruling is
No
mad at all. No mad at all. No, there is no. Ja'ahul a'ma. There is no mad, right? Because there's a sukoon after it. There's a silent letter after it. وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى.
وما يدريك لعله يزكى.
Notice over here, لعله. What did we do here? Two harakas. Why?
Because
There is a movement before, haraka before, and a haraka after, and there's no hamza. Now notice that in many Qur'ans, there will actually be a small wow over here to remind you that there is a mad, okay? But even if it's not there, if your Qur'an doesn't have it there, not printed there, you should know by the ruling that there is going to be two harakas here. أَوْ يَذَّكَّرُ فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى.
أو يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى.
Okay, here we have فَتَنْفَعَهُ. Once again, we have the ha with the pronoun. What did we do? It's followed by a silent letter. Where is the silent letter? The first dal, exactly. You have to be careful here now. Remember, the lam will be dropped, because why will it be dropped? It's a solar letter, so you don't have to worry about the lam. The lam is not the silent letter. The silent letter is the first of the two dals which has a shadda on it. Okay, so this is the silent letter, therefore there will be no mad. أَمَّا مَنِ اسْتَغْنَى فَأَنْتَ لَهُ تَصَدَّى.
أما من استغنى فأنت له تصدى.
Here we have once again أما من استغنى فأنت له. Right, lahu, we will have a two harakas, because there's a movement before and a movement after. وَمَا عَلَيْكَ أَلَّا يَزَّكَّى.
وما عليك ألا يزكى.
Okay, here let's move to another example that will be more relevant to us. Move to verse number 24. Okay, verse number 24. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ.
فلينظر الإنسان إلى طعامه.
So far we don't have a mad here because we stopped on the ha. Suppose so that we continued from طعامه. Suppose we continued and we did not stop. What type of mad would this be now?
2 or 4 or 5.
2 or 4 or 5. We have an option. Why? Because we have this type of ha followed by a hamza, and it's preceded by a movement. So let me recite it first with a 2, and then with a 4, and then with a 5. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا. Notice I said طَعَامِهِ أَنَّا. There was only 2 harakas. Let's now move up to a 4. فَلْيَنظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا. Here I moved up to a 4. And I have the option also of 5. فَلْيَنظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ أَنَّا صَبَبْنَا الْمَاءَ صَبًّا. So here we have now the ha preceded by any type of movement, and followed it is a hamza, so we have the option of 2, 4 or 5. Once again, once we choose one specific haraka length, we have to be consistent throughout our recitation. So we summarize today's lesson by stating that the mad al-sila, or the connecting mad, it deals with the pronoun of the third person in the masculine form. Something you're referring to as a possession. Kitabuhu, his book. Yaduhu, his book. The ha, or his hand. The ha that occurs at the end of a word, which refers to the masculine pronoun. This ha, if there is any silent letter before or after it, there will not be any mad. If there is a letter which has a haraka before, and after it is a hamza, then you have the option of 2, 4 or 5. And if there is a movement before it, and any letter other than the hamza, then you must prolong it only to 2 harakas. This brings us to the conclusion of today's episode. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.